Hi, I'm Leslie, and my journey with microvascular angina began in 2019. Microvascular angina falls under the relatively new category of INOCA. INOCA stands for ischemia with no obstructive coronary artery disease. For me, I describe it as chest pain, shortness of breath, being tired, and knowing that the blockages are in the small arteries and not the big arteries. When I hear some of the horror stories that women have around heart disease and diagnosis, I consider myself fortunate. By 2019, I had been experiencing shortness of breath when exercising and doing normal household chores for a number of months. I finally decided it was time to act when my husband and I were cleaning the basement. I bent over to pick up a single dish to pack it away and had shortness of breath and some chest pains, and it took some time to recover. I got in to see my primary healthcare provider quickly because he knew of our history, our family history of heart disease, and he referred me really quickly to have a stress test. And from there, I was ushered really quickly across the hall to see a cardiologist, even though the stress test was negative, which I thought was interesting. The cardiologist thought that I should have an angiogram, even though the stress test was negative. And he thought that I needed the angiogram because of our family history. I had the angiogram within a month, and that was fine. I have to say, after having a good angiogram, I was a bit concerned. I thought, oh my goodness, if it's not a blocked artery like all my parents and grandparents had, then it must be in my head. Might be a good time now to mention that I've had depression for over 20 years, although it's been stable. I wasn't particularly anxious, at least no more anxious at this point than most people would be going through this process. Back to the cardiologist, he made a diagnosis of cardiac syndrome X, which is actually microvascular angina, but I didn't know that then. The terminology has evolved over time. At the time, he assured me that it was normal for women in their 50s and that 90% of the cases cleared up by the time they were 60. He explained they didn't understand why, but those were just things that happened. So I thought, okay. We tried a range of drugs. Nitrates were the ones that worked the best, but really nothing got me back to where I was. 60 comes and goes, and I'm not sure if it's a revised diagnosis or the terminology changed, and now I have microvascular angina. All the heart tests show that my heart is working just fine. That's the great news, really. I'm happy about that. Unfortunately, the pain and unpredictability of microvascular angina are a tad annoying, and they really affect my life. Because none of the other meds, other than the nitro, really seem to be helping, I really should say we, because my husband is very, very supportive and he's excellent with doctors, persist with a cardiologist to see if there might be some other treatments out there. So the first thing the cardiologist suggests is that I try researching CBD oil on my own, which I did, and it really wasn't very successful, and it's very expensive, so we didn't spend very much time there. Then he referred me to the UHN Pain Clinic in Toronto. That's an excellent facility. I tried a ganglion block 3 times. Those were not successful. I also tried spinal cord stimulation. I was the first one that they had done for angina in Toronto. That was also not successful. That only works 50% of the time generally. So if anybody else wants to try it, I'd say go for it. They suggested that I try an external TENS machine, but they don't support it. So I've opted not to take that any further right now. From there, on my own, I found the Women at Heart peer support group in 2024. The program and the women that I met through that program have really been my saving grace. Some might say, surprisingly, I learned that I had heart disease, or really, I should say, I have heart disease. Before this, I thought that microvascular angina was something that was going to be treated, I would recover, and life as I know it would resume. It seems a bit silly to say that now, but no one other than the group ever said that this was a lifelong condition. The peer support group helped me to recognize that I can manage my heart disease. As part of this process, I asked my cardiologist for a referral to our local cardiac rehab program, and this has made the biggest difference in improving my day-to-day functioning. This and understanding that life is now a new normal that I'm choosing to live to my fullest.